Hi, and thanks for joining us for this Noteworks video tutorial. In this video, we will walk you through how to build and customize your own workflows, which are visual progress trackers for working out all your different loans, statuses, and substatuses, and essentially getting them through the loss mitigation process. So to do that, build your first workflow. First, head to the Settings tab, and then from the left-hand menu, select the Workflow option, and this will bring you to a list of all your system's statuses and substatuses, and all those are actually broken out by first position lien and second position lien, just because these different lien positions will have different constituent substatuses. So to build your first workflow, you're going to select the workflow you want to build a status for, or a substatus, and what you're basically going to do is just create a series of steps that your firm generally likes to take when working out a loan of a certain status or substatus. And once you've defined these steps and put them in a step-by-step order, that workflow, that flow chart of steps will appear for every loan under the same status. So, for example, with a pending modification, your firm probably has a process in place or some sort of protocol for working out modifications with your borrowers. So we're going to enter that in step form. And so to create this workflow for pending modifications, you're going to click Edit from the options next to that substatus. Then you're going to start adding steps. So again, for example, with the pending modification, the first thing I might want to do is calculate the new terms of the modification I want to offer to a borrower. So for that first step, we'll say calculate mod. Okay, so in that step I basically mean, again, I'm crunching the numbers, putting together modification proposal for my borrower to review, and then we'll add our second step, which naturally will be getting that proposed modification out to the borrower and having them review it. So we'll just call this step borrower review. Maybe that will entail a phone conversation with the borrower, maybe some back and forth, whatever, but that'll be this step. And then my final step after the terms that I proposed have been reviewed, maybe again there was some give and take with the borrower, maybe they agreed to it, whatever. My third and final step will be actually getting the mod documents out to the borrower for them to be signed and notarized. So we'll say this third step is doc prep and signing. Okay, so with that, I have my workflow designed for the pending modification substatus. I will go ahead and click close. Before I do that though, you can see you have some options here when you want to come back to this workflow and maybe edit it in the future. You can adjust the order of these steps. You can delete steps, rename steps. The only thing to mention here as a caveat is that editing these steps for any files where you've already done work on a workflow will affect those workflows. So it's best to come up with these workflows for all your statuses and substatuses to begin with, and finalize them so that you don't have to go back and create any messes with any of your files if you want to edit them in the future after you've already started working on these workflows. So it's good to get them out of the way. We've got this one done. So again, I'll click close. And there you go. You can see I have my workflow enabled for the pending modification substatus of the non-performing status for all my first position lien loans. Okay, so now that we've got that done and we've inputted and programmed the steps. That may be sounding a little vague, so let's actually take a look at a file that's in my pending modification substatus to see what a workflow really looks like. So I'm going to find a pending modification for us to look at here. Just going to search for it real quickly. Okay, there we go. We got the Havisham file on Status Avenue. So I'm going to go into this file, and you can see now at the top of my Tasks tab in this file's loan profile, I have a workflow module, a whole section devoted to the workflow and this visual progress tracker of the workflow for this pending modification. So any file I go to that's a pending mod will have the same series of steps in place. Again, we do this for consistency's sake, so once you have a workflow that your firm likes to use for different loss mitigation substatuses, you don't have to define it over and over and over for all your files. It's just applied kind of like a blanket to all files of a certain substatus. So you can see here you got a couple options. First, you can go back and forth on the workflow. It starts out on step 1. You can click these buttons, next step and back, to go back and forward. You have a button here to access the settings tab, where it will take you to the workflow editor for this substatus's workflow. And then finally, you have an alert here indicating how many tasks are tied to the current workflow step. So this is a really integral part of workflow where what you can do is assign tasks as you would normally to any user you want, or no user at all. But these tasks, let's say, will be related to working out this loan's current substatus. What you can do with tasks like that are actually tie it into the workflow and basically link it to the current workflow step, so that completion of that task will be a prerequisite of moving past a certain workflow step. So for example, let's just say with my first step here is to calculate the terms of the mod. So maybe there's a few component steps within that one workflow step. I'm going to have a couple separate tasks to work out before I move past that step. So again, for instance, I could say that the first part of calculating the mod terms I want to offer a borrower would be to actually crunch the numbers. So we'll just call this crunch mod numbers, and it's an open task naturally. And then this field here is important because this is what will tie it to the workflow and make completion of this task again required for moving ahead in the workflow. So if you click the drop down menu here, you can see you have a list of all the workflow steps. I'm going to tie this to the calculate mod workflow step because that's the one it's relevant to, and I have to crunch the mod numbers before I can complete this step. So everything else here looks good. I'm going to click save. And as you can see, got a couple things here. First, a notice that the task has been created successfully. We have it right there. You can see there's a block of text here that says this task is tied to the workflow, step 1. It's in green, and the fact that this is a workflow task is actually also indicated by the green stripe on this task tile. And then finally, like I mentioned before, you can see that now one task must be completed, as this alert is telling us, before moving past the current workflow step. So another possible task I may have to complete to get past the calculate mod terms would be to obtain approval from management that the terms that I've proposed are acceptable to them before I offer them to the borrower. So I'll call this obtain management approval of mod, and then I'll go ahead and tie that to the same workflow step. And so, just like last time, what that will do is make another prerequisite that must be fulfilled and satisfied before moving ahead to that next workflow step. So having explained all that, you can probably tell that there are a lot of possible combinations and customizations you can come up with your workflow steps and tying tasks into them to make managing the workouts of all your loans very easy and simple, and more than anything else, extremely efficient. And that's our goal with this workflow feature, to take a lot of the guesswork and repetitive legwork out of the process of working out your loans, and really make it a consistent and non-time consuming thing for you to do when using our software. So that about covers our tutorial on the workflow feature in NoteWorks version 2. In another video, we'll show you how to tie smart tasks into the workflows for all your statuses, which will allow you to, instead of adding tasks manually one at a time, you'll be able to just completely automate the process of assigning tasks and linking them to your workflow. But again, like I said, that'll be the subject of another video. So for now, thanks a lot for watching this tutorial. We hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions about the material presented here, you can always refer to our user guide for NoteWorks version 2. As well, you can call us or write into us. Feel free to do that. We'll be happy to help. Other than that, thanks a lot for watching this video, and thanks for using NoteWorks.